fine lah, since already 7:51. Okay, also just testing, you guys can see the thing, right? The Baitu. Share this tab instead. It should be loading. Okay, Elora, dapat. Alright. Okay, we can start now then. Alright, so today, 3 things on our agenda, right? Firstly, we're gonna talk about just responses slash rebuttals. Then we're gonna touch on, what was it? Then we're just gonna do a setup practice. So just based on what you guys learned from last week. And then finally, we are going to do, if we have time, because I want to end by 9:30, responses practice. So later I'll just tell you guys how that's gonna work. But for now, we just do the lecture. Before that, if you guys have any notes, Google Docs, or just any books nearby you guys just can just write in it from what I talk about here, just so that you have your own notes in your own language, in your own words, that it's easier for you to look back and understand. It's also fine if you don't want to. That's just perfectly up to you. And if I have any lagging issues, just open mic and tell me, because I probably will be too lag to like switch tabs and then check the chat. It's gonna take me like a whole minute. So just open mic and just tell me, and then after that I'll just like try to fix the issue if there's any lag. Inshallah it doesn't have. Alright, so let's just start on responses then. So we already talked about the first one of the big 3 that is set up. Now we're talking about responses. Finally, we're going to be talking about arguments probably next week, and then we just start sparring a bit, and I'll probably do a few like very short lectures on like politics and economics to introduce you guys to that, right? So, say hi to Barbie. Oh wait, hold on. I need to hold on. Hold on. I open presenter mode for myself. Present, and then presenter mode. How do I open presenter mode? Presenter view. Okay. You guys should only see the normal picture. Okay, yeah. Alright, works. So, basically, the reason why Barbie is here today is that Barbie is going to represent someone that is trying to defend the rise of cosmetic surgery, right? And she's going to give a bunch of statements, and we're going to look at how exactly we can respond to Barbie's statements, right? Through responses and rebuttals, right? And I want you guys to be able to like, just come up with a few responses. Not need to be eloquent with your words, just kind of giving out the ideas on how you'll be able to respond to her, right? And then afterwards, I'll also be giving ideas on how you could maybe, like other ways on how you could respond to her. And who knows, maybe you're going to be even better at coming up with ideas, right? So TLDR, whenever there's anything about like Barbie and then it's a dialogue, it's imagine like Barbie trying to defend cosmetic surgery's rise, and you are trying to rebut her on it. Okay, so 3 layers of rebuttal basically. There's 3 main layers. Firstly is just on why they're wrong, secondly on why they're irrelevant, and thirdly on why we are better. So for the first one, it is the most basic part of a rebuttal. It is basically just why exactly the other side is why their claim is wrong. But often, more than not, a lot of beginners, they end up not proving why they're wrong, but instead why actually they're irrelevant or why they're better. The problem with this is that in a rebuttal, you should always be only touching on first why they are wrong, and then second you talk about why they're irrelevant or why we're better, right? Why do I say or in this case? Is because layer 2 and layer 3 of a rebuttal often overlap. They often have a lot of similarities. So I would say they are not set in stone that you need to like do layer 1, then layer 2, then layer 3. It is just that generally the structure of an argument should be that first you prove that the truth value of their statement is wrong, and then secondly, then you prove even if their statement is true, then why are they still irrelevant even if it's true, or why are we even better in what we say even if they're true, right? So to sum it up, is just one, why they're wrong, and then two, even if they're true. And that's a very important thing, is that when you mention quote unquote even ifs, it's something that's very good because it's making you charitable, increases your charitability. What that means is that basically you're considering when the side might be true, when the other side might be true, how we still win over them. So you're not only winning in your best case, you are winning in your worst case when you assume that they're true. Because of course when you assume that they're true, that's kind of like your worst case and their best case, right, of the debate. But if you can still prove that your worst case is better than their best case, you win, of course. So that's why even ifs are very important in a debate. All right, faham? If no questions, if any questions, just open mic and just ask lah. All right. Secondly, so on the first layer is basically just what they say this certain statement, but then we actually tell you that they are wrong, right? But then how exactly do you prove that they are wrong then? There's two ways that I want to present to you. Firstly, you just attack what supports their statement, right? Because whenever someone is giving out a statement, if they are like pretty decent, like okay in debating, they'll be given reasonings, right? So you'll be like, okay, first reason why this is true, second reason why this is true. Or they might just tell you, okay, it's because of the fact that blah 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 blah, right? So when you, of course, I feel like this is pretty obvious that when you want to attack a certain person's statement and then like they give reasons as to why that statement is true, if you're able to prove why those reasons are false, of course you're proving why that statement is true lah. This is basic like the way logic works in our reality, right? And then secondly, if you cannot if they didn't give any reasons as to why their statement is true, and you just kind of need to prove that their statement is false without attacking the reasons that they have behind their statement, because they didn't give any reasons, because they weren't good enough as a debater, then you just kind of just give and your own reasons to prove why their statement is otherwise false, right? And the point that I need to mention here is that when you mention they're wrong, it's not assuming that even if they are true, right? Because that one you save it for your layer 2 or layer 3, right? Because in here, it should only about be proving why exactly they are wrong and just, just wrong, right? It is not about proving that, oh, actually, they say that they have like these harms, right? But then we actually say you that these harms aren't so bad because we have benefits. Sure, you're responding to them, but you're not proving them wrong. And the point of a rebuttal is to, one, prove them wrong, and then also respond to them by being charitable, right? But if you're only doing the second half, you're doing comparative analysis. That's what we call it. And you only want comparative analysis as a last resort. Not last resort, but like as the final thing you do on your agenda, right? So, what does Barbie say? Barbie is telling us that cosmetic surgery lets you feel confident. Let's think. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys about 3 minutes, and I'm gonna let you guys think about why exactly cosmetic surgery does not make you feel confident, right? Wait, hold on. Yeah. Okay. Let's just say that she says that cosmetic surgery makes you feel confident, right? And wait, what was it? It was something else before you guys start. It was reason. Oh yeah, okay. So firstly, Barbie, assume that I'm Barbie. I say cosmetic surgery makes you feel confident. Okay, and why does it do so? Because cosmetic surgery allows you to get rid of your insecurities. It makes you like be able to like look better, and then like you can get rid of your big fat ugly nose. Imagine Barbie saying that. All right. So now, I want you guys to take 3 minutes. I'm gonna like time you guys, and then you guys just think, and then I'm just gonna pick like a few of you guys, maybe even all, to give your like idea on how you'll be able to rebut the statement. Go. Time starts now. Any questions, just ask in the chat lah, since tak nak ganggu orang lain. All right. Okay. Let's go. All right. Okay. Um, siapa first? Siapa dulu? Okay, let's do Arena.
Okay, so cosmetic surgery lets you feel confident. I think this is wrong because even if you have cosmetic surgery, there will always be an underlying feeling of insecurity if you see other people compared to yourself that are natural beauty. Like you could have all these plastic surgery, you could use all this money to have plastic surgery, yet there will always be someone more prettier than you. And seeing them you will feel more insecure because you didn't you you weren't privileged with that sort of beauty. The second reason is that you will always fear of being criticized. Let's take for example K-pop idols. So K-pop idols, most of them get plastic surgery, yet but also there are some of them who are accused of getting plastic surgery. And you will often see netizens like shame them for getting plastic surgery, like oh my god, oh they did this all to their face just to look pretty. So like imagine if it were yourself, your peers around you, maybe your family members who knew who you look like when you didn't have plastic surgery, they will criticize you for having plastic surgery just to gain beauty. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay. I'm gonna. That's a valid response, right? Because debate there's no objective answer to anything. So that's a pretty good response. I also just wanna, because I'm not gonna like sugarcoat or whatever. I wanna be like as honest as possible in my critiques, right? So for the first reason, I think it's decent. I think yeah, like oh yeah, like sure, people will be like, oh, jealous of other people's natural beauty. But in order for you to prove that reason as to why the argument that Barbie tells you is false, in order for me to believe that, you need to tell me why natural beauty is always seen as better than beauty gotten from cosmetic surgery. Why? And that's basically just about proving why society like thinks that natural beauty is just Like why no wait why society values more people to be values more natural things, right? Why they think natural beauty is better, right? Either that maybe it's just like the idea that maybe like the society just prefers things to be natural because they just feel like it's not uh fake and they're not being lied to, and it just seems better. It's also kind of hard to explain that narrative as to why society cares about things that are natural, especially because like sometimes society doesn't really care that much, because if society sometimes society doesn't really care that much because, for example, you look at Christian, everybody loves Christian like punya facelift. They're like just like cheering her on, right? A second reason as to why, and this is related to the point that like, oh, maybe society doesn't really care that you aren't natural, right? Your second point about the reason as to like, oh yeah, people will criticize you for taking cosmetic surgery and then you will not feel confident, right? I think that's also true. It can be true because yeah, you bring up a point that K-pop idols are often demonized. I think you need more reasoning in that sense, or to prove why exactly like people would criticize you for getting cosmetic surgery. Like for example, just saying that like cosmetic surgery is just seen as like something that is taboo within society because like why would it even be seen as taboo actually? Maybe because I'm trying to think as to how you'll be able to say that it's taboo. You could just say that society just places an inherent appreciation for what is considered natural, right? So then when we see something that is not natural, we think that it is not it is not we do not value it as much because we do inherently we're taught from young that being natural is the best thing that is possible, right? For example, it's like just like in society there's always like a glorification of natural things, like natural food for example, or a natural lifestyle or whatever. Anything in your lifestyle, just being natural seems better than like being plastic or like eating a lot of junk food for example. You demonize a lot of like supermarket food for example, and you rather eat like like the glorification of like drinking raw milk for example, which I find very weird because apparently it's more natural. All these things that society inherently values naturality more, right? But then the thing about this is that okay, yes, you can say that, but then what I also have to bring up about this is that it's also very easy for the opposition side, or like Barbie basically, to come in and just say like society actually doesn't care about naturalness, because like you can say that people criticize you, but if I'm saying that like I defend the rise of cosmetic surgery as Barbie, then like basically people, or since it's already rising in popularity, people are already getting normalized to it. People think it's normal, so people don't critique others for getting plastic surgery. In fact, the only side where people are being critiqued and not feeling confident when they get cosmetic surgery is your side, because it is not normalized, because there's no rise of it. Because I said that I'm defending the rise of cosmetic surgery, right? So therefore, what you said is wrong. So you can see how maybe she could rebut you back in this sense. So it's really important for you to prove that, in fact, like even with a rise in cosmetic surgery, people still value naturality, right? Maybe you can just talk about how like even with a rise in cosmetic surgery, it's not necessarily that people think that it's normal. It's just that people feel pressure to buy into it because, and they try to hide it, and it's often where people, even though there's a rise in cosmetic surgery, often people try to hide it that they have gotten cosmetic surgery because they would rather pretend that they have natural beauty, right? I think that's another way you could possibly run it. Right. Next, let's talk about Agnes. Not let's talk about. Let's get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Barbie might say cosmetic surgery makes you feel more confident, but cosmetic surgery actually makes you lose your unique features. Confidence can't just be built through getting rid of your facial features, but instead can be obtained by embracing the beautiful yet unique features that have been passed down from generation to generation. By getting rid of them means you're not proud of your heritage and you rather follow the current beauty standards of looking like a total bimbo doll. Besides that, this fake look cannot compare to the raw and genuine look people who are confident in their own looks have. Because of this, insecurity will still exist. Therefore, embracing your natural beauty is entirely better for you compared to a fake and unrealistic look that doesn't feel like the real you. That is all. Yeah.
Sure, I like that. Oh,
You're muted.
yep, I just realized that. Okay, sure, I like that. I think. Okay, I'm not gonna give comments on that because I think your idea is quite similar to what I have to say in the next slide as an example of how you could rebut. However, I do want to call out on one thing is that on your second half of your rebuttal, you kind of just start talking about how embracing your natural beauty is better, right? But realize that this does not prove that they are wrong, right? they it can be that you can get more confidence from cosmetic surgery, but then you're just saying that actually even if you can get confidence from cosmetic surgery, the confidence that you get from embracing a natural beauty is better, right? But realize that that is an even if, so you're not actually proving them wrong, you are simply just saying that your side is better. That is the problem, is that you need to leave that in your layer 2 or layer 3. I don't know if you were purposely like trying to include a layer 2 or layer 3 in your rebuttal, but if you weren't and that was accidental, just know that you should only keep that in the latter parts of your rebuttals after you've fully proven why they are wrong, right? Okay, lastly, let's get Freshiela's rebuttal.
Okay, so Barbie says that cosmetic surgery lets you feel confident, but in my opinion, this is wrong because because there are some cosmetic surgeries which are like botched, and botched means like failed cosmetic surgeries. And what happens if you do get a botched cosmetic surgery? Obviously, it's not gonna look great, and obviously you're not gonna be confident, and it's very and when you get like a botched cosmetic surgery, it's like when you get a botched cosmetic surgery, not only do you need more money to cover it up, you will actually, instead of feeling confident, you'll be ashamed because you went for a cosmetic surgery thinking that you will look nicer, but in the end, you look worse. And if you're trying to sue like the doctor, the surgery doctor, to like get your money back, or like get, if you have done enough money, you're trying to get your cosmetic surgery another one to cover it up for free, you're gonna it's most of the time it's going to get very very popular, and then people will see you with a botched surgery, and instead of making you confident, it will make you look, I say it will people will make fun of you because people make fun of you because you wanted to get a cosmetic surgery and then you failed and now you look ugly. That's all from me, thank you.
All right. Okay. I do have an issue with this in the sense that when you talk about you're gonna get botched from cosmetic surgery. The problem with this is that in your rebuttal, you don't prove why it's likely that people are gonna get botched from cosmetic surgery. And in fact, if I was Barbie, I'm just gonna tell you, well, since there's a rise in cosmetic surgery, people are just gonna be constantly improving the cosmetic surgery that already exists, right? There's going to be constant advancements like research and development to be able to achieve real bimbo, like true bimbo, like what is it called? True bimbo, uh, starhood. I don't know, something like that. True bimbohood. Yeah, sure. So in reality, we tell you that on like cosmetic surgery being botched is a very low likelihood. So your entire rebuttal about how you're not gonna feel confident because you're gonna get botched is going to be very very unlikely, because not like only like a very small percentage of people will actually get botched due to plastic surgeries. So our statement still stands true because the vast majority of people come out of cosmetic surgery looking better, but still, and then therefore feeling more confident, right? So that's kind of what I have the issue with your rebuttal. So, yeah, it's of course a valid rebuttal. It's just that I would leave it for maybe your like just a very quick one-liner, because it doesn't really stand very strong in my opinion. And I would leave it at like the end of your rebuttal, maybe as like a even if. And then but you have to prove why these people that are botched are going to be so vulnerable, as in like because everybody is so beautiful, and then comparatively, they are not only just like not only do they have natural beauty that's not like a natural look that maybe they don't like, now they're bought so they are even worse, and then everybody else looks good. So like these people that are already insecure are gonna get even more insecure. This leads to like very severe depression in the sense, because your society probably places more emphasis on looks, right? So then you can prove why these people were so bad, but why these people were going to suffer very terribly. But that does not prove why they are wrong, right? Because most people are going to still feel confident. That's just like a even if at the end of the argument, right? Let's move on. So, the way you can actually respond to this, in my opinion, is that, okay, yeah, I mentioned just now the Barbie's reason as to why cosmetic surgery increases confidence is because you get to fix your big ugly nose, right? The way we can respond to this is by just telling her that you can't actually fix anything through cosmetic surgery, right? Because of the fact that you're only using cosmetic surgery to get rid of your own insecurities, right? And we tell her that the root cause behind why people are insecure of their looks is just because of this attitude of self-hatred that has been internalized from them within a young age, right? So we tell her this probably looks like socialization, for example. So this looks like from young, you look at Tyra Banks on your television, or the models on social media and on magazines, for example, and you think, wow, they look so pretty, right? And that internalizes the idea that your natural beauty is incredibly important, and only natural, and the people that look pretty are the only people that get to have good lives, and that you also compare yourself to them, so you end up just hating your own looks, right? And you have that internalized within them. So we tell that attitude is never going to disappear even after you get cosmetic surgery. So when you simply fix your nose, you end up just getting simply obsessed with other aspects of your looks, right? So maybe your pimples, for example, your eyes, your brows, your face, your skin tone, your fat, your chest, your everything, right? It's because of the fact that it is not the root cause behind your insecurities is not because of the fact that you are ugly most of the time, because most people just look decent, they look normal. It's just that they are just insecure of things that they've been internalized to feel insecure about from a very young age, because the industry just wants money, right? They want people to constantly be buying their cosmetic surgeries, for example. So therefore they just end up pushing this idea onto children that they need to look better, right? Because at the end of the day, they'll buy more makeup products, they buy more skincare, they buy more cosmetic surgery. It ends up making all these industry companies much more richer at the end of the day, right? So TLDR, you cannot gain confidence from looking better, because you are simply just going to, probably not be satisfied with your new nose after a while, Okay, any questions before I move on to the second layer of rebuttals? Okay.
No.
Alright, no problem. Second layer. So for the second layer, it is basically just about, even if they say this is true, they say this and it's true, we tell you even if it's true, it doesn't matter. So there's 5 ways that I actually want to talk about the way that you can talk about why it doesn't matter, right? Or just why it's irrelevant, right? Firstly, on the fact that it's symmetrical. What do I mean by this? It's just basically saying that any benefits that they talk about that they have on their side, we can actually get those benefits on our side too. Or, on the other hand, any harms that they try to say that we have, we actually say that they have those harms too, right? Secondly, we mitigate it, it's basically just the idea that, they say that we have any harms on our side. We tell you that we actually can just mitigate these harms with other forms of ways to be able to cover them up, right? So maybe it's very similar to like the first half of just talking about why they are wrong. But then the difference here is that we're not saying that we're not necessarily saying that we're not necessarily saying that they are wrong. We're just saying that we actually can mitigate this harm so that it's not really a big deal anyway. So then it's not really relevant in the debate because it barely affects anyone, and when it does affect people, it's a very, very small scale, right? Thirdly, we can say that we flip it, right? What do I mean when we say we flip it? It's like in the first half of your rebuttal, like we talked about just now in your layer 1, you already proved why they're wrong, right? Then in your second layer, you can actually flip it by saying that the harm that they talked about actually exists on their side, right? And only on their side and doesn't exist on our side. Or the benefit that they talked about that exists on their side actually only exists on our side and doesn't exist on their side, right? That's basically about flipping. So it's just a better way compared to like symmetrical, because symmetrical is just saying, oh, the benefit exists on both sides, or the harms exist on both sides. Flipping just means that the benefit that they talked about actually doesn't exist on their side, it only exists on your side, or the harm that they talked about that exists on your side actually exists on their side and only exists on their side, not on yours, on our side, right? So, fourth, what they say actually isn't so bad or isn't so good after all. So maybe we admit that what they have is true and it actually takes place and it's actually full scale, right? But we want to tell you that even when it's full scale, it's not so bad or it's not so good. It's not really that big of a deal. What they're trying to say is just that they're just exaggerating the impact that it has. It's stupid. There's no point, right? And then finally, on prerequisite, right? Prerequisite, I think this one is a bit more complicated because it's the idea that what they're talking about, the benefit that they're talking about, or the thing that they're defending, so is actually not as important as something else, right? But this also kind of overlaps with the third layer, because that's when you say like something is not as important as something else, you're probably talking about how you can get that thing. That's also about layer 3. But then when you're talking about prerequisite, I feel like the more better example when I'm talking about prerequisite is about principles, right? So when they're talking about the freedom of speech, for example, maybe in a debate where they say the freedom of speech is very important, you maybe want to talk about how freedom of speech, actually the prerequisite to freedom of speech is right to life, for example. So if or like, yeah, right to life, or like right to not be oppressed, for example. So if someone's freedom of speech is actively oppressing others, then that freedom of speech needs to be taken away, because we need to protect the right to life, or right to like not be oppressed in the first place, because that's more important as a right or a principle, right? Faham? Actually, I understand if you guys start Faham, because this is very fast. I just throw 5 different ways to say it doesn't matter to you guys. So we're going to actually have examples. Whoa! So let's use the motion. This house would ban social media for children under 15, right? Government. Government tells you, let's say that we are trying to respond to government, right? Government tells us that social media has negative influences on children, such as exposure to incel culture, pornography, etc., right? So, what exactly can we respond to this after we've proven that they're wrong? Let's just assume that we've already proven that they're wrong, right? But then how can we do our second layer of our rebuttal as opposition, right? I'm going to give you 5 ways we can do this. Firstly, we can say that it's actually symmetrical. We can say that kids will actually find other ways to use social media, right? Because they can just find ways, loopholes to be able to go through these regulations, right? Like, it's very easy to just, like, children will obviously find ways to be able to, like get voice chat on Roblox, for example. That already happens. So we tell, if you're trying to ban social media and you have like sort of like face identification, for example, or like IC identification, it's very easy to be able to just, like, for example, steal your parents' IC and then like fake their face, for example, like try to like use like an AI image, for example, and that it's easy to be able to gain that access to bypass this regulation, right? And if you have a hard time being able to bypass this regulation, you can just try to learn from other people, like your friends, your in school, for example, on how exactly you're able to bypass. So there's always ways that people will be able to bypass these regulations, right? And then they will find a way to use social media. So it's actually symmetrical. Second, we tell you that we mitigate this harm that government tells us. The way we can mitigate this harm is that parents actually care enough to control their kids, right? So on our side, parents, like, even if we allow children to use social media, parents will actually be actively supervising their kids on social media and making sure that, for example, their history is not like tainted with like pornography, for example. And if it is, they're going to confiscate their social media from them, right? So we actually mitigate this harm. Actually, I don't really like this analysis, because a lot of parents don't know how to control their kids enough. Even if they love their kids and they want to control their kids, they don't know how to do it properly. So it's very easy to rebut this. But sometimes you don't have to mention all 5 of the reasons, right? Just any one that you feel like is appropriate and actually is able to stand against the other side's punya responses. Use those reasons, right? You don't need to use every single reason on this list, right? You don't be, oh, the 5 reasons. No, it's not a set. It's not a checklist. It is just tools that you can use, right? Thirdly, we say that we can flip it, right? Flip this harm. So we tell, like, this is kind of based on like symmetrical thing that kids will find another way to use social media, but we tell you that it's actually worse when children end up using the social media without regulation, because on your side, when you ban them, you just expect them like kids to be banned off social media. So now social media, it just ends up just being for adults only. So that means that like you have like very easy, like, but pornography probably much more less regulations on it, because you know adults, you expect adults to be just like okay with like watching pornography, for example, or like incel culture, like they have their freedom to speech, for example. You can't really infringe on that, right? But then that means that now, since the internet is much more open, the kids that do end up bypassing social media, they're not even being surveyed, they're not even being regulated, so there's no heavy regulations being put on them to like censor and watch them constantly. Then you end up these kids are just even more able to gain more access to more dangerous negative influences, right? So it's actually even worse on their side. Okay, before I move on to the fourth, you guys are processing what we are saying, right? Are you guys understanding? Because if I'm going a bit fast, just let me know. Okay ka?
Yes.
Alright. If I'm going too fast, or you want me to repeat something, just let me know, yeah? Okay. Fourth, what they say isn't actually so bad after all. Because they say social media actually has positive influences too, right? So we told you like for example, like you can meet new people, you can learn about more cultures. You're not limited to the narrow-minded view of only like the influences of your family, right? Because in the past, like for example, like this results in like children being able to adopt more racism in the future, because you know they're only close to their own mindset and their own culture's mindset and their own family's mindset and their own like small little world. They never learn about other outside opinions, right? So social media is able to introduce them to this, and therefore you're able to create more well-rounded individuals that are more like, you know, empathetic, for example, and less racist, less bigots, for example, bigoted, for example, right? Fifth, the fifth and final one, we can say that it is a prerequisite. There's a prerequisite here. We told you that the reason why these negative influences exist is because society is bad, right? So we told you that you actually need to fix society to get rid of those negative influences in the first place. So instead of banning social media, you can use your government as a government. Instead of the same amount of money that you put into banning social media, you maybe put that money into like trying to make programs to be able to mendidik anak-anak or something, I don't know, like introduce sociology in classes, for example, to be able to make them like more like be able to use logic to explain to them why they should be more empathetic, for example. um you know, so you're able to fix society actively rather than just trying to patch it up with by like banning social media, because that doesn't actually solve the root issue, because the root issue will find other ways to manifest itself in the form of like negative influences in like media, for example, in form of movies, in the form of like children, like their friends being very negative influences, for example, right? Okay, that's all I have for the examples. Now we move into the practice again. So I want you to guys, based on all of these 5 reasons that I give you, you can just choose any one of them, as many as you can if possible, but as long as you have minimum 1, I'm fine with it already. A response to cosmetic surgery makes you feel confident, and it can be based on what you mentioned earlier, because often more than not, our rebuttals, like the second layer and third layers of our rebuttals, actually end up being based on the first layer. But it's up to you to decide how you want to do your second layer. So let's go. Anything that you guys, I'm gonna give you guys about 3 minutes, and then after that we can come back, and then after that you guys can, you know, respond to that. Hold on, you guys get a bit more time. I need to get my dinner. I haven't eaten it yet, so like 2 more minutes. Write more lah. Write more reasons, like based off the things I gave you. Salam, salam Malaysia Madani, salam sekolahku sejahtera. I'm back. Freshella goes first because she went last just now.
So, I disagree with Barbie because this cosmetic surgery, it will make you feel more confident. But in order to, and like I said just now, these cosmetic surgeries will increase the chance of botch. And then you said something about, oh, then we can just advance the research to like lessen the chance of botch surgeries. But when you advance the research, right, there's two things that you need: money and time. But I'm gonna talk about the money part. So like the money, right? You use it to obviously hire more researchers and like do whatever, like, and like buy equipment to make it better. So if you increase the money used for this research, that means the price of these of these surgery of these cosmetic surgeries also goes up. And when the price goes up, that means like the price when like you want to do a normal cosmetic surgery, the price will also go up. And then when the price goes up, obviously, like when the price goes up, it's more expensive. But the thing is that a lot of people want to have cosmetic surgeries to obviously make them feel more confident. But how many of those people actually do have the money? So if because they really really want to do this cosmetic surgery, right? What is a cheaper way to get a cosmetic surgery? The cheaper way is by going to the black market. This is like going for black market surgeries. But there's like a problem with these black market surgeries is that obviously here because they want to earn more money. And then when they want to earn more money, what do they have to do to earn more money? Obviously, they have to do more surgeries to gain more money. So how do they do more surgeries? They obviously want to do it faster, and when they do it faster, that means to like if they want to make it faster. They're obviously like, oh, I won't have to do this because like if I do this, it wastes my time and then it wastes the amount of money that I get to earn. So by what I'm saying is that these black market surgeries may not sterilize their tools and equipment. So when you don't like sterilize these tools and equipment, they get like infections, and then like once you get an infection, right? I'm not sure if you've read, but okay, for example, like breast implants, Like there's a lot of people that go to the black market to just do breast implants because one, they are cheaper, and then like most of the time, when a lot of the times actually when that happens, it gets infected, and then they will need to pay more money to get out those breast implants. And then it's very very hard, it's very risky actually, if they want to redo it again, redo the cosmetic surgery just to fix the infection. That's all from me.
I like that. I like that because yes, black market is a very, very, very important thing in this debate, right? That when you increase the rise of cosmetic surgery, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody can afford cosmetic surgery. I think it's great that you can also be. It's also good if you would be able to mention that when there's a rise in cosmetic surgery, everybody feels pressure to do cosmetic surgery, right? So that means including poor people that are already in a very bad situation probably feel like they feel like they're pressured into opting into cosmetic surgery, but the only choice is black market surgeries, cosmetic surgeries that not only like get them botched, but often put their life at risk, right? Infections, for example, right? So, yeah, I do think you can maybe reduce. Okay, this is a bit nitpicky, but I do feel like you can reduce the analysis, like not the analysis, but the example of breast implant, because I feel like once you've already proven if you want to bring up examples like that, just bring them up very fast because in a debate speech, at first maybe when you're starting out, 7 minutes seems like so much. Then afterwards, you feel like 7 minutes is never enough, right? Because you always want to say so much. And even when you get good at being able to like being concise, it's very hard to get to the stage where you're like a pro debater to the point that you can just mention everything that is relevant and strategic in just 5 minutes. Only a few people can actually do that and win a round. There is some people, there is, but then those are like the trainers that are like 30 years old and have been in the debate for like over a decade. No, probably a decade and a half at this point. So, yeah, safe to say that most of us are not getting there anytime soon, unless we end up dedicating our whole lives to debate, and I don't see myself doing that. Alright, off the topic lah, but yeah. Okay. One more thing is that I do think okay, it's related to what they say is so bad after all, but I also feel like it's a bit more layer 3-ish, but I'm not exactly like saying that you should only do like a layer 2 thing, because honestly, I already said like earlier, layer 2 and layer 3 often overlap, so I'm fine with you actually mentioning all of that just now. Just to let you know lah. So there's also ways you can try to use the other reasons other than just like kind of like what you kind of did that was kind of proximate to what they say isn't so bad after all type of analysis, or what they say isn't so good after all type of analysis. Okay, next, Agnes.
Okay. Okay, when Barbie says that confidence can be gained through cosmetic surgery, it is also technically symmetrical on both sides because confidence will still be found without altering any facial features at all. And we also mitigate what Barbie has said because actually when you embrace your features instead of focusing on silly insecurities that are dragging you down from being the best of you, you actually feel more confident. You feel like I'm actually I feel better about myself. I feel attractive. I feel like I don't have to do these things to make myself seem better, even though I'm already better. Okay. And to flip what Barbie has been saying this entire time, it is actually worse when you alter one part of yourself. Because then your brain will just trick yourself into thinking that if I change my nose, it'll make me look more conventionally attractive. So why not I just change the rest of my body? Change the rest of my face, change the rest of my body to look more like Kim Kardashian, for example, or any other celebrity with features I know I will never possibly have at all. It is impossible to have. And what Barbie says is it might not be that bad. Okay, being natural actually makes you more confident compared to what Barbie is saying. It's not that bad, but what we're saying is better. Why? Because uh, when you're more confident, because you're able to show your uniqueness to the world rather than looking like your average Joe. Okay. Now, lastly, those insecurities are not the root, are the root cause of people getting cosmetic surgeries. And even so, these insecurities will still be there. But if you just try to embrace what you already have, you wouldn't have to waste sweat and tears just to feel more beautiful about yourself, even though your OG and natural look is still there. So, in conclusion, cosmetic surgery just doesn't make you more confident. It just gets rid of what you already have. It just replaces it with some standard thing that follows the beauty standards currently. Yeah, that's all.
Alright, thank you. Okay, that was good, I would say. I think, okay, for the first one about symmetricality, you mentioned, what was it again? Uh, let me recall. Oh, yeah. You basically just, this is kind of like the same analysis you use for like symmetrical and mitigate. You say that, like, you know, people actually are going to be confident on our side too anyways, because you know we don't have the rise of cosmetic surgery. But I need you to explain me why the lack of a rise of cosmetic surgery is actually able to host more confidence in people, right? Because I can just say that actually, I either side of the debate, the issue about like pushing insecurity onto your children through like social media, for example, comparing yourself, for example, still exists either ways. It's just like on one side, you can actually solve that issue by getting cosmetic surgery. The other side, you cannot solve it. You either have to live your entire life like sad and lonely, feeling like a ugly child, or even worse still, you get looks. You try to go into other ways of like trying to fix your looks, for example. So like looks smashing, for example, like the fucking bone smashing thing, or like the thing where like, I don't know if you know, this is a bit off topic lah, but like if I cut like using like a knife or something, like cut the inner corner of their eye like there, so that they can increase like you know the sharp corner of your eye where it goes in like that. They want it to be more sharper. They want it to like go down like that. So they cut it to make it and then create a scar there, so that the scar tissue will form and it will look like that thing. And it's so fucking weird. It's that's practically self-harm. And EDs, for example, are going to be more common, for example, rather than like, oh, I just get liposuction, T. Okay? Liposuction definitely better than an ED, for example, right? So it's up to you to prove why exactly, the rise in cosmetic surgery is going to be able to, the degree, the lack of a rise in cosmetic surgery is able to allow people to be more confident about themselves. I actually have reasons as to why this would be true, but I'm going to talk about it later because I have them written later on and I don't want to like, repeat it again later. On why to flip, I think that works. What they say isn't so bad. Yeah, I think both of those also work. I don't really have many comments to that. So yeah, good job. Now finally, Arena.
Okay, so Barbie says that cosmetic surgery lets you feel confident because it allows you to cover up your insecurities. But on our side, we say that if we embrace our insecurities, we will be able to feel more confident because you're proud of your genes and your uniqueness and your inherent features. You will also be proving that you don't have to follow beauty standards to be a part of society. And the more society realizes that, the more and better our society will be. And other than that, if plastic surgery wasn't promoted as a way to get rid of your flaws, instead as a way to fix past injuries to your face, like recovering your past self from injuries or medical conditions, then we wouldn't be dependent on these surgeries just to fix our insecurities that are embedded in ourselves. And lastly, I think before we let yeah, instead of letting these cosmetic surgeries become largely popularized in our society, we need to fix people's mindsets. Basically, their view on beauty standards. Instead, we need to find beauty in everything, because why do we need to follow beauty standards that has been popularized since like the 1800s and till today that are always changing? I especially since there are like new artists coming in, like you cannot expect everyone to look the same. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. I think the same comments apply to your first half, or like the same comments I give to Agnes apply for the first half of your rebuttals about the confidence thing, about how exactly you need to like prove to me why exactly people will be more confident about like their genes and whatever when there's no rise in cosmetic surgery. But then secondly, I think on your second half, okay, like about how people need to be confident because they just need to be confident. Alright, yes, people need to be confident, but you cannot just say that people need to be confident because you cannot actually because it's not you cannot just say that people will be confident on your side because they need to be confident. Because the debate is about proving whether or not it's good for society or not if the rise in cosmetic surgery exists. When you say that people need to be more confident, you cannot just tell people to be more confident. You're the debater. You're supposed to prove why people will feel the need, like be incentivized to feel more confident, right? If you cannot prove that people will be encouraged by like the lack of the rise of cosmetic surgery to be confident, then you already kind of like do not prove your point, right? So I think it's an issue here on like how exactly you understand like how exactly you are able to debate. You cannot simply just say like that you need to be able to people need to be able to be more confident because that is not something you can claim as a debater in the round because it's not really how do I say this in a clearer way? It is the you do not have the privilege on the opposition side or government side actually for either side, the anti-Barbie side basically, to be able to say this because as a debater all of your points need to be proven to the judge as to why they're true. So and as a debater you're not really just encouraging people like it is simply just about proving supporting or opposing the motion. It is not about how exactly like this can be reflected onto like society because at the end of the day there's only three types there's only three actors in the room, right? The government side, the opposition side, whichever one is your team, and then the third one, the judge, and maybe the audience. So, yeah, it's not really about how you can shape the societal narrative in reality. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to like how exactly you respond, right? So I just do one thing here on flip. I basically just say, wait, hold on, let me just, yeah, okay. I actually just say, just one thing on why we flip it. I just say that you can actually just make discussion of insecurities more prevalent on your side, which is even worse, right? Because we can just tell you that surgeons actually want money, 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 right? Because of the fact, it's a private sector. So therefore, there's a significant more larger push for advertising, right? Like advertising for to get cosmetic surgery, for example. So this looks like in Korea, for example, where a lot of people are recommended to get cosmetic surgery because there's a rise in it, and they see it as a very like attractive sector. So like you have investors investing into it, and then cosmetic surgeons and the companies advertising it more, and then it just becomes more and more prevalent until the point that you push the idea that onto people that would never be insecure in the first place to feel insecure in the first place. The two feel insecure on their side with rise of cosmetic surgery, right? So, therefore, cosmetic surgery, the glorification of it becomes much more common because of the fact that the media constantly glorifies it because it's being paid off by companies that are giving cosmetic surgery to people, right? And so the media only reinforces this even more because you see all these people getting cosmetic surgery and you're like, wow, they look so good and shit. You see like Kris Jenner, for example, getting that facelift and you're like, I want to know her doctor so badly, right? So at the end of the day, then you end up comparing yourself even more more people get pressure to feel like they have to do cosmetic surgery. And actually, you can link this back to the black market thing that Freshiala said. In fact, because of the fact that there's so much pressure to do cosmetic surgery because they push insecurities on people, people end up opting into black market options, right? And then that's very dangerous because, you know, it's black market shit. You're probably gonna get botched or your life is gonna be at risk. You're gonna get injuries. Or, not all, and plus, you're gonna be hurting the poor people even more that are already in a very bad situation. Yeah, so even if there's ways that they can actually fix the botched face that they got, they can't afford it. So they just end up having to live with like even more insecurities. Their life is ruined basically. Because what social media has taught them is to base their entire worth and value on looks because the media is being paid off by these cosmetic surgery companies. So now their entire life is spent thinking that they cannot do anything about their looks anymore because they're botched. They're fucked for the rest of their life. They're sad, even more sadder. Blah, depression, I don't know. Yeah, that's basically what I have to say on how, maybe for example. I think, yeah, that's basically it. Okay. Layer 3. So layer 3 is basically just about, they say this, but we still win over them with what we have in our counterfactual, right? So, this is basically just what we call comparative analysis. What do I mean by this? It's literally in the name that we just compare analysis on both sides. So on one side, they're talking about their own case, and then on the other side, we have our case. So we just compare the cases, and we just talk about how our case is better than your case. And often more than not, we do this in the way of even if, so that we're not just saying that our best case is worse than their worst case, because that's not charitable. Of course, our best case is going to be better than their worst case. But how our worst case, where we admit that we might have some harms, is better than their best case, where we admit that they might have some benefits. So there's a certain something that maybe you have like a few harms, sure, but you actually have one benefit that just outweighs all of the harms that you have, right? Or they maybe have a few benefits, but they have a certain harm that outweighs all of the harms that they, or all of the benefits that they have, right? Like that, for example, lah. I think I talked about this in the first session, like on how exactly you're going to be able to do even if. I'm not quite sure if I actually touched on it though, but if you don't remember, now you know, right? So, any impacts you can if you brought up in your arguments earlier on, you can also reinforce your butters with them here, you know? You can just like mention what you've already mentioned about your arguments, and then you can just say how the impacts that you mentioned in your arguments, like the benefits or harms that you brought up, are the same benefits or harms that are going to be able to make you weigh over the other team, right? So basically that's just a way to reinforce your rebuttals. Or you can just simply just talk even more about your impacts in a way that you didn't previously, because in rebuttals you're able to bring up a bit more new information, especially as second speaker. As third speaker you're a bit more limited. Second speaker, a lot of people end up integrating their arguments and rebuttals into one single thing. That's why I'm kind of low-key. It's like second speaker is very experimental. So yeah, up to you on how you want to do that. And then, confused on how exactly you'll be able to do this layer 3, there's 3 things that I want to introduce to you. Firstly, scale. Scale is just about how big a certain impact is, right? So, there's like large scale and small scale things. I think that's pretty intuitive or obvious as to what that means, right? There's like large scale impacts, small scale impacts. Large scale impacts, those are larger impacts, larger benefits, larger harms. Small scale impacts, smaller impacts, smaller harms, smaller benefits, right? And you just compare the scale on like maybe our harms are smaller scale than their harms, or our benefits are larger scale than their benefits. That's why we still win over them with what they've already said, right? Because we have stuff that's better in our counterfactual. If you guys forgot what counterfactual is, it means world, like our world, okay, or our case, right? So sustainability then is, secondly, sustainability is about long-term versus short-term. So something that is long-term, basically just like our benefits are more long-term than their benefits, or their harms are more long-term than our harms. Our harms are just short-term. So that's just about, if there's the same scale, but on the terms of like length, ours is, you can still win on that. You can just compare on that metric. And finally, urgency or solvency, right? If an issue is very urgent,
if you're able to prove the issue is very urgent, then you can bring up about the metric of solvency on which side is able to solve the issue faster. Because if one side solves the issue a bit slower, like for example climate change, which is very urgent, then what's the point? The world is going to die by the time you solve it, right? So that's 3 metrics basically. These are all metrics of weighing basically. We'll talk about metrics of weighing in the future, but these are all metrics on how you're going to be able to like compare both sides. So once again, this time you're able to bring up any new material, any new arguments or whatever, but not a whole new argument, right? Just kind of like a third layer of a rebuttal. I want you to once again respond to Barbie about her defending plastic surgery because apparently it increases confidence or whatever. I'm gonna give you another 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna call you guys, and then you guys do it. Yep. Any?
Yo, Velan, Laura just joined.
Oh yeah. Oh, Elora, you can also try. You know. What was that? Wait, I think I'm lagging. Hold on. Agnes, are you talking right now?
No.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Elora, basically what we're doing right now is just that we're doing like a third layer rebuttal response to the idea, like Barbie basically is saying that cosmetic surgery is good. So, the rise of cosmetic surgery is good. So, do you understand what we're doing right now? Or are you a bit lost because you joined late? Elora?
I understand to a certain point, but I'm still lost.
Okay, so lost. Okay, it's fine. I will also include you in this small little practice. You get like 3 minutes to basically just come up with a kind of like response based on like a layer 3 type of response to that this claim from Barbie. It can be short. I don't mind if it's short because you're lost. It's
So
fine.
do I do all 3 layers at once or?
Just layer 3. Just layer 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Alright. 3 minutes starts now. I'll come back at yeah.
3 minutes up. Agnes, you first. Boom.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even done yet. It's alright, it's alright. I'll present what I have. Okay. Hold on. Let me find it. Okay. On our side, even without the rise of cosmetic surgery, the people on our side will still be able to feel better about themselves. You may ask, how? But it is really simple, as gradually over time, people will get used to their features or even be praised for having something so unique. The truth is, just because something isn't common doesn't mean it isn't beautiful in its own way. Okay, that's where I stop.
Where is it?
What?
Is that it?
Yes, that's where I stop.
Oh. Can it be that? If you can, try to improvise. If you can. If you can't, just...
Alright. Okay, I'm gonna try to add something. But on Barbie's side, all she cares about is how cosmetic surgery will improve your confidence. The insecurities will just disappear on its own. But that is not true. Because um insecurities just don't disappear just because you change one thing. It this it disappears when you get used to what you have. When you're used to what you're having, you feel better about yourself. Which is why Barbie's whole case is completely untrue and doesn't actually bring any confidence to anyone at all. Uh, yeah, that's it. I don't think I can do anymore.
Alright. Yeah, sure. I don't really know what to say because it's a bit short. Hmm. Yeah, let's just take a listen to others. How about Irina?
Okay, so um, our side is better because we not only promote self-confidence but also decreases the need for plastic surgeons to potentially risk our health for the sake of beauty. We promote for the fact that we promote self-confidence. You feel better about yourself, but how long is that going to last? As I've said before, beauty standards evolve over time. So when beauty standards evolve, you will feel the need to get more plastic surgery to feel more fit in, and that risks your health as well. In other situations, you could be getting plastic surgery that deteriorates your health. As we know, the saying pain is beauty. But do you know how painful plastic surgery is? Some plastic surgery is to the point where you can't even walk or stand up. For example, there is this one Douyin influencer I know. She got a few plastic surgeries and she couldn't even stand up. She was just laying all day to the point it dragged on for weeks and her assistant had to wipe her pee lah, basically. And yes, it's true that surgeries always have risks, but is it truly worth it at the expense of beauty? And that's all for me. Thank you.
Alright, thank you. I think this analysis is more just like the flipping it analysis that I talked about in the layer 2. But also, once again, because layer 2 and layer 3 have a lot of overlap, I don't mind that you brought this up right now. It's fine. As long as you're not repeating what you say in layer 2, in layer 3, and actual rebuttal in the debate, right? So yeah, I think what you say mostly sounds true. I don't really have a lot of comments, except I think just an example you can in an actual debate. I think for now, since this is a casual session, I like that you mentioned it. But in an actual debate, since you don't have a lot of time, I would say get rid of the example, spend more time writing on uh Like if you're gonna mention an example, just be like, oh yeah, cosmetic surgery, it's because it can often more than not like the same reasons that I think it was Speciala who mentioned earlier, or was it you? I'm not quite sure. Who mentioned like about how like when you increase when there's a rise of cosmetic surgery, what is it? The cost increase, but then basically black market lah, black marketing. Yeah, I think yeah, Freshiala mentioned that black marketing. We talk about that too, but then and then blah, 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 we just talk about that, and then for example, you don't want to end up like that one girl, that one Chinese influencer peeing on the floor because she couldn't move. One liner, just one liner. If you're gonna bring it up in the debate, just you know what, add some humor or add some reality into your debate. That's fine. Just don't add too much because you need to focus on your other stuff that's more important rather than examples. So I'm just very nitpicky when it comes to examples because I want to make sure you guys are using your time strategically in the actual debate speech. Okay, but overall, pretty good. Lastly, not lastly. Second last, yeah, Freshiala.
Okay, so Bari claims that cosmetic surgery increases confidence, but in reality, it actually makes people less confident because everyone has the privilege to get cosmetic surgery, but not everyone gets the privilege to get a professional or guaranteed successful cosmetic surgery. What I mean by this is the people who are less fortunate, by what I mean by less fortunate is broke, that already have low confidence because they don't have money, will try to get cosmetic surgery believing that this cosmetic surgery will make them more confident. But then since they're already less fortunate, they're less fortunate, they're broke, and they want to afford this cosmetic surgery that makes them more, like, to at least make them feel a little bit more confident, make them feel a little bit better for themselves. But then since they're already broke, what do? What They go to the black market. So they go to the black market, and like from what I said for my last rebuttal, it may increase the chances. The black market surgeries increases chances of infections and botched surgeries. And if, like, let's just say these less fortunate people, they do encounter these problems, they're already less fortunate, so they already don't have the money to they don't even have first of all, they don't even have money from the start to get these cosmetic surgeries. So what if these surgeries fail, what are they gonna do? They already don't have money to get the cosmetic surgery from the start. That means they don't have more money to get to, like, fix these problems, to treat the infections, to fix the botched surgeries. So then, since they don't have money to fix these, right, they will feel less confident, way less confident. So cosmetic surgeries may make you feel confident for now, but in the long run, when something bad happens, like, um, your breast implants, like, leak for some reason, it will obviously, like, it will ruin your confidence. That it will ruin your confidence instead of increasing your confidence. That's all from me.
Alright, so yeah, that works. You took my advice. Yeah. Instead of like giving comment, I just have one question. You don't have to respond actually. This time just kind of. No, yeah, this is a question. I'm just holding as to what the other side or Barbie could actually ask you. Why exactly would cosmetic surgery be expensive on your side when there's more research and development put into it? Because actually, Barbie, I'm going to start talking in first person. Because I'm going to pretend like I'm Barbie. Because actually, I think that, like, you know, when you have the right to cosmetic surgery, you have more research and development being put into it. Of course, you're going to find ways to make it cheaper, right? You're going to use like cheaper tools, cheaper equipment, cheaper facilities, and all that shit, you know? Cheaper bahan, you know? Like, you get cheaper filler, for example. For the actual, like, cosmetic surgeons, not like in the back of the alleyway, getting your breast pumped up, you know? With like random liquids that you don't know what they are, right? So, in fact, people don't have to resort to black market because most of cosmetic surgery is going to be well priced, right? So then that's where maybe your argument might fall apart. Your rebuttal might fall apart because of the fact that you're supporting on because it's premised on the idea that cosmetics people will opt into the black market. Of course, there's still ways to say that cosmetic surgery is always going to be expensive no matter what, right? Because it is cosmetic surgery, it is a surgery, and surgery requires like there's not a lot of pakar. For example, surgeons are very limited because it is a very undesirable job to go into because it's very you have a lot of risk put on your hands, no matter the amount of money you get. Some more now, it's going to be more competitive with the rise of cosmetic surgery, so it becomes even more undesirable to actually enter cosmetic surgery because of how competitive it is and how much harder it's going to be able to like compete against the other more established, well-established cosmetic surgeons. So you only have a few people entering. And then thirdly, monopolies exist. Like there's a lot of companies that just specialize in specific types of cosmetic surgeries in a certain area, so they can monopolize that. Especially because when you have a rise of cosmetic surgery, it's hard for like the people that aren't rich to like fly overboard to like Turkey to be able to get a hair transplant, for example. They want to be able to get it in their home country. So monopolies exist that are like Lauya quality, bad quality, and some more like they are very expensive because they're the monopoly, they're the only sole provider of these surgeries there, right? So there's ways for you to be able to prove why it's expensive in other ways than what you said earlier. But then other than just saying that black market will happen, you can also just talk about the confidence thing that we've also been talking about, right? About how you can improve your confidence, which actually leads me to the next slide. Oh wait, no, before that, Elora, your turn.
I still don't get it, but okay. First of all, cosmetic surgery doesn't actually fix confidence. It just changes how you look. If confidence really came from surgery, then like after one procedure, people would feel completely secure forever, but that's really not what happens. As there are trends, it's a never ending checklist. We've seen trends change so fast, from petite cute girl to Nicki Minaj BBL. Plastic surgery is short-term confidence, yeah, but if you love yourself and you um if you prioritize self-confidence rather than keeping transforming yourself into a whole different thing. If okay, example, if you do your nose because you hate your nose. Oh, this is nice. Okay, wait. I want to do my lips now. Oh, I want to do my okay, sorry. I want to do my eyes now. And then they're just going to keep on editing themselves until they're totally plastic and literally look nothing like themselves. That is short term. They're just going to keep on doing plastic surgery until there's nothing left. Okay, okay, second, even if we accept their point, we still win when we compare counterfactuals. In their world, confidence depends on expensive surgery that only few people can access, and even then, it doesn't fully last because people can still feel insecure again, and they're gonna keep on ruining their body in order to feel short term confidence. Whereas in our world, we protect more people without needing extreme changes to their bodies or their faces. So we help more people at the right time in a more reliable way. And we, if you love yourself, if you love what you have, if you accept yourself for what you have, it's forever. You would not want to change yourself. You would not want to harm yourself. Therefore, our side will win because we care about the mental being.
I like your confidence. I like your confidence. Alright.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, no, that was good. Alright, yeah. Firstly, I want to say good analysis on the first half about the insecurities, because I think that's what we talked about earlier. But I think a better way to be able to say this, like in just terms of wording, is just saying that insecurities are internalized within you. The reason why you have these insecurities or want to do cosmetic surgery is because of the attitude of self-hatred that you have. So when you end up just doing cosmetic surgery, it never fixes this attitude of self-hatred. So people just end up hating themselves more and more, and then it leads to what you talked about, like you end up just turning into like a plastic bimbo doll. I mean, you never know. Maybe someone actually wants to look like a plastic bimbo doll. Just saying. Whatever. No, yes, just joking about that. Actually, I don't know. What exactly is the harm of that? That's also another thing you could analyze. Like, why exactly is becoming a plastic bimbo doll so terrifying and so bad for people? Probably because of the fact that it wastes a lot of their money, and they end up regretting it. Because even if you're not end up getting botched, if you get too much plastic surgeries, your looks end up looking drastically different to the point that you do not recognize yourself as much. It's very daunting and it's very terrifying, because recognize yourself in the mirror for certain features that you see. If you get rid of all of those features, it's very disillusioning, to your identity as a person. Second on the comparative thing, I think the same comment here that I gave to the others just now, because they mentioned similar things earlier. Wait, hold on. I think my throat is itchy as hell. Oh yeah. The same comment I gave to the people earlier, about how these cosmetic surgeries that you bring up, that you say like on our side we have better confidence and we protect people or something, you have to prove why exactly your side has more confidence when there's a lack of rise of cosmetic surgery, right? The next slide is going to be talking about this. This is why I wanted to move into the next slide earlier, just now, because it is talking about why exactly cosmetic surgery is going to, like the lack of rise in cosmetic surgery is actually going to lead to like more confidence on our side, right? But then also I want to just mention that your rebuttals is actually kind of structured in a way that your first half you're talking about the layer 2, and then the second half you're talking about layer 3. And I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but Fresciela's rebuttal response is kind of structured more like a layer 2 sort of layer 2 of a rebuttal, because it is more just like talking about how their side is actually worse. Their side actually has worse harms, but you don't really compare on how exactly your side has none of these harms or has benefits. Whereas like when you talk about confidence, you're able to talk about that, like your side compared to their side, right? Because layer 2 is more just about talking about why they are irrelevant. Layer 3 is more about comparing your side to their side, right? So you have to mention what happens on your side too, So yeah, next slide. Oh my god. Okay. Ooh, sorry about that. Next slide. So this is basically a way you can respond to this. We can say even if you can boost confidence, we tell your boost of confidence is short term, whereas our boost of confidence is long term, right? Why? It's because cosmetic surgery is not normalized in our counterfactual, right? So this means that people have to face what they have and live with it. So this means that we redirect efforts to support groups and whatnot. For example, like the government can not government, but like it's just that because of the fact there's a lack of cosmetic surgery, people end up trying to find other alternatives to be able to solve their insecurities. This looks like, for example, discussing the fact that they have insecurities rather than just saying, oh yeah, you just get cosmetic surgery. It's like people are aware, like most people are rational enough to know that, like, oh yeah, like not most people actually, some people are not rational enough, but general society, like there are people that are rational enough to spark the discussions about like how like there's no other alternatives for like being able to change your looks. So instead you should focus on just embracing your looks, right? So then these discussions are able to spread, to other people, spread awareness about, just discussions about how you should just be embracing your beauty, for example, your natural beauty, or not feeling, or just knowing that whatever insecurities I have are actually pushed onto you from a young age, not because you hate yourself, but because other people have taught you to hate yourself, and you should work on being your authentic self and not letting the other people and society shape you into something that makes you hate yourself, right? So, because it's easier now you don't have that choice. The easy choice is just be able to say, I just get cosmetic surgery. Now people are forced to actually think about how they should embrace their looks rather than feel insecure about that, right? So then, support groups and whatnot are going to be much more common on our side then, right? And then therefore, furthermore, we also have a less push of insecurities onto people, right? Why?
is because of the fact that on our side, see how I'm talking about our side in layer 3 rather than just talking about their side. I'm comparing to our side how we're better. Our side is better because of the fact that when you do not have a rise of cosmetic surgery, that means cosmetic surgery companies are not trying to make as much are not making as much money as anymore. They cannot be funding the advertising that they used to be able to attract their customers in the first place. So, and what does this advertising look like? It looks like, you know, the magazine, like the push for like magazines that like focus on like the women's bodies, for example, like because they want to be able to make profit off of the insecurities of women, especially under a patriarchy, you know, where the male gaze is seen as much more important, right? So, in this case, you have less of that because these companies are not that big anymore on when you don't have the rise of cosmetic surgery. So in fact, they fall apart. Not fall apart, but they're very small. They don't end up being able to fund as much of these magazines, for example, as much of the social media stuff, for example. So there's less push of insecurities onto the people. At best, people just end up pakai banyak makeup, and that's not as bad as, you know, taking cosmetic surgery, because makeup is not as detrimental of impact on your body or your face, for example. It is a temporary thing, and people, it is not very as effective as cosmetic surgery, which means that our benefits about redirecting efforts to support groups still exist because people have to find ways to be able to cope with like not being like conventionally attractive according to the beauty standards of the time. Because even with makeup they cannot completely fix that, right? So yeah, that's that. I think that should bring an end to our session. So I want to call upon someone. I'm just gonna random pick. Let's just say Agnes lah. Agnes. What are the 3 layers of a rebuttal?
Um, prove the opposite side wrong, how they're irrelevant, and hold on, compare the impacts on both sides.
Ding 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 ding. Yes, thank you. Correct. Alright. Evelina, what if you don't need to mention all of them? I just want maybe 3. If you can mention all of them, you can. What are the 3 to 5 ways that you can kind of just prove why they are irrelevant, why the other opposite side is irrelevant?
The first one is how it's symmetrical. Second is how we can mitigate it. The third one, how we flip it. And the fourth one, prerequisite. There's one more, I don't know.
Okay. Last one is basically just about why like what you're saying is not actually that bad, or what you're saying actually isn't that good after all, or just basically what you're saying actually it's just a small deal. It's very insignificant. It's very small. It's a small thing. It really doesn't matter. You know. That's basically the 5th one. Yeah, good job. Freshella, what are the 3 metrics of weighing that I mentioned earlier?
Wait. Is symmetrical one of them?
That's
I
that's the how to prove they're irrelevant. I'm talking about the one where you can like this layer 3, comparing both sides, their impacts.
Okay, I don't think I remember.
Okay, tak apa. Elora, do you remember
What?
the metrics of weighing that I talked about in the layer 3 of a rebuttal?
Metrics of living. Huh? Wait. Scale? Wait, was scale one of it?
Yes.
Oh, wait. Was it urgency? Scale,
Yes. Scale,
urgency,
urgency,
and
one more.
sustainability.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, scale, wait, what was it? Scale, urgency, and sustainability. So, Freshella, can you tell me what 3 of these things mean? Scale, sustainability, urgency.
Okay, scale is when you compare. Urgency is how urgent, like which side does it faster? Which yeah, and sustainability is which side does it? How's it like government does it? Like which one is long term? Which one is short term?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I just want to make a small little correction here. Actually, all three metrics of weighing basically just means weighing two things against each other, or in other words, just comparing two things against each other. Weighing is comparing. So actually, all three of these metrics of weighing are ways to compare both sides. So scale is actually just about comparing based on the metric of you. Okay, these metrics of weighing just basically means I can compare both sides on the metric of scale. So just on the metric of how big the impacts are. I can compare the two sides based on the metric of sustainability, which is just which side has long-term or short-term impacts. And then thirdly, I can compare both sides on the metric of urgency and solvency. So which side is able to reach a solution faster, right? Okay, so you guys, I think were pretty receptive towards this session. That's good. I really, guys were really like bekerjasama during the science session, so I'm very happy about that. It was really smooth to work with you guys. End up we cannot really do the setup practice, but that's fine. I think we were pretty productive this session too. I just want to clarify. So TLDR, what we've learned today, 3 layers to rebuttal. This often comes in like in a rebuttal, you actually just do these 3 layers all at once. So you'll be like, okay, so what they said is this, right? I have a few layers to this rebuttal. Then firstly, I want to tell you that they're wrong because of the fact that blah 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 blah. And then you talk about your reasons why they're wrong. And then secondly, I want to tell you that even if they were true, right, we tell you they're irrelevant because of the fact that blah 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 blah. And then thirdly and finally, we want to tell you that even if they are true, we told you the fact that our side was still going to be able to provide you more benefits. You know? Yeah. So that's how a rebuttal would kind of look like lah. And you probably will have the opportunity to practice that in future spas that I will host. Talking about that, for future trainings, this is kind of like, okay, I want you guys to be able to actually use the skills that you get from these trainings in your actual debate careers, right? And how do you actually use these skills in debate careers? Join competitions, right? So I will send competitions in the chat once in a while, and I want you guys to like look into them lah. Of course, sometimes they cost money, so I understand if you cannot. I understand if you cannot. I'm not gonna force any of you guys. I don't like when like a lot of coaches they end up saying like, oh, my kids are the people I'm training are, they have to join one competition a month. The problem is that not all of us can afford that, bro. Like, I'm B40 pun. Like, I'm not sure if any of you guys are here are B40, but I cannot afford that. Like, I mean, I try, but I can't afford that, bro. Like, I cannot. So it doesn't really piss me off when I say that because when they say that because I know that they mean it good, but sometimes I literally just cannot afford 100 ringgit competition every single month. So I understand if you guys cannot, but I will send some resources to be able to look through any competitions. I want you guys to constantly look through the spreadsheet for any competitions that are in a similar time zone to Malaysia or maybe even Malaysian time zone that are cheap, that you can afford. Know that like the cheapest competitions that you'll find will be like 50 ringgit, 60 ringgit per person. 100 ringgit is the very like common price. So 50 ringgit is actually kind of a steal. I would recommend you guys to join a competition if you find that it's 50 ringgit. Because even though it's expensive, it's very important that you guys gain exposure through competitions because this is the one time you actually gain a lot of intensive practice and intensive feedback from many different people and gain a lot of exposure to many different types of debaters from all across the world because debate competitions are very international. I want you guys to join these online competitions so that you can improve as debaters, right? Because that's how I improved, right? The reason why I'm actually rusty right now is because I haven't been joining a lot of competitions, right? And the reason why I was low key like pretty much like actually low key like a bit better during Form 3 I am not like in my prime right now, low key, is because of the fact that I was in Team Malaysia development squad, so like like the just like the bleh sort of squad, like, and they give you like free competitions every single month, so I was able to join a lot of competitions then, plus my own competitions that I joined by myself. So I was joining a lot of competitions because they were funded. So that's why I was able to maintain a very good level of debating skills during that time. So
Of course, you cannot join a competition every single month. That's very expensive. But when you can, try to join maybe once every 2 to 3 months. I would recommend. Okay. And if you guys kind of find any teammates, you guys can just link up with each other, just message each other. Or if you want me as your teammate, can also. I'm very happy if you guys can be my teammate too, because I would like to be able to, help you on your debate journey like that. And yeah, okay. About then moving on from competitions to a very specific competition. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard about Curtin Inter-School Debating Championship, CIDC. It is being held in Miri. It's free registration, I think. I don't know if there's a judge fee. Like, you guys can just get a random student in your school. It doesn't really matter. Just get a random student or just get a teacher to go as a judge for you guys. Please try to join this competition if possible. College Haji Pujang, you definitely can. Just ask your teachers, talk to your teachers about it. And then if they say yes, then you just do the Borang Deklarasi stuff so you can skip school during those few days and then just join because it's going to be a very good competition. I can assure you, they have you're gonna have amazing motions because I know the people that are making the motions, they are great debaters, they are great experienced debaters, and I'm telling you, if it was Zuhairi making the motions, it would be very one-sided. Sorry, Zuhairi. He's a great debater, he's a great coach. The one thing about him is that he gives very one-sided motions, but the people that he put in charge to make the motions are very great debaters. I know they will come up with great motions. They have a lot of great judges there too, so you'll get amazing feedback. And the competition last year was very well run, so I can assure you that probably this year, since it's the same organizing committee, it's going to be well run too. Okay, and sweet, Of course, for Gapor, the Gapor people here, I don't know if you guys can join. Maybe talk to your teachers if they will be willing to maybe come to Miri. I don't know. Because it is physical. And it's a good opportunity, right? And a lot of Miri, like, if SMK Lutong can come to SSIDC every single year, coaching every single year.
Okay, but the money though.
The money though, yeah, I understand that. I understand that. If you guys cannot, then tak apa lah. But if you guys can ask to your teachers, maybe, like, say, is it possible? PIBG? Not allowed.
Okay, but me personally, I can because my dad has business at Miri, but I need a team,
You
I need a
yeah.
team.
Talk to your teachers about it lah. Please talk to your teachers about it if possible.
Actually, our teachers already told us about it. It's just that, yeah lah, the students.
Okay. Who else here is Gapor? Agnes, Elora.
Agnes, yeah.
Okay, so Agnes and Elora, you guys, maybe, you never know, can team up. Talk to your teammates about it maybe. Next time, since today, like Gapor, I think not as many join. Maybe next week a few more will join. I'll try to mention it again. You guys think about joining, cause I really want to see you guys there. Cause I'm gonna be there. I am gonna be there. Okay, I am going to be. I'm not debating. I'm not debating. Probably just spectating or judging. But yeah. And if possible, if you guys are joining, I'm gonna try my best to be able to help you guys win. Even though technically there will be a Lutong contingent, and I also want them to win. But since I'm training you guys, I also kind of want I want everybody to win. I as long as it's like a final where it's like Lutong versus you guys, I'll already be happy, right? So yeah, think about joining. And thank you guys for joining to the next session. We kind of ended almost on time.